Hey everyone, and welcome to the recap of Natalie Cochran, day 7. Today was the big day, the day of facts. Medical people understand all day. This was the day where you have to convince the jury that the state's medical people didn't do a good enough job. And did the defense do that? I'm not sure. I really liked their last witness. Their first witness, I felt, heard their case. And as I always say, when you go into a courtroom, if if this is guilty, you are already here. You should be here, and then the state would have to prove it up to guilty. But people look at you and say, "Well, you're in a courtroom. You must have done something wrong." I didn't feel that the state got closer to guilty with their case. I know a lot of people say, "Well, I saw this, I heard this," but remember, we only go by what we know from the trial. I know she did the plea dealing in the Ponzi scheme, saying Michael didn't know anything about it. That doesn't matter. That's a different court. It's a different case. We are here where we are now. So, did they get us closer to the goal of her being found not guilty? And I would have to say, I was not impressed. And why I wasn't impressed was a doctor named Ljubica Drakovic, who, first of all, they couldn't get the technical stuff to work. Second of all, at least on the stream, the audio was horrendous. And he is one of those experts. And I don't know lawyers in America if you can talk to your experts, but tell them we don't care. We just want the facts. We don't want you to talk 25 minutes about why you think something is blue or light blue. We just want to know, is it reasonable to believe this guy was injected with insulin, causing brain swelling that led to his death? And is it reasonable to believe she did it? Sadly, this guy wasn't one of those people. His main message was he didn't feel that it should have been determined as a murder because, as the first autopsy revealed, you couldn't tell the possible cause of death. It's too decomposed. There's no evidence other than the blood glucose that everything hangs on in this trial. They should have gone harder into explaining reasons why the blood glucose could be that up-down motion that we saw, because that's Dr. Uribe's claim that it must have been insulin because of the dip spike dip. This guy, he rambled on for 3 hours on direct and cross, and in the end, he couldn't tell anything because of the decomposition. He agreed with Dr. Krieger that you couldn't really tell what it was, if it was murder. He disagreed with Dr. Uribe and kind of said, if you read between the lines, that Paul Uribe was told what to look for, closed his eyes, and said, "Well, I have looked at everything else, and this thing, because I need to prove it's insulin, it's this thing that I can use as my evidence," which I think, presented by the last witness we had today, would have been really good, because what a difference there was between the first and the last witness. I didn't feel he came off well. I got really annoyed with him. I got into grumpy grandpa mode because he was just everything just annoyed me about this person. He talked too much, audio was bad, and I didn't feel that he hit any dingers. We had his initial draft was so filled with errors, and again, it doesn't mean anything for his final product, but it does, because you're talking to a jury. The jury don't know anything about pancreatic tumors, elevated blood levels, brain swellings. they just look at the expert and say, I like this guy, or I don't like this guy. And then when you can't even write a draft report, getting the dates wrong, his age wrong, and then say, well, it must have been my secretary who did it wrong. I didn't like him. I felt he was really bad for the defense. I would have cut a guy like that out. He was horrendous on the stand. The second one was her former physician testifying. Yeah, she was being treated the day before with some steroids and some benzo. He couldn't tell if that was the benzos that ended up in Michael's system. He have heard something about she might have had cancer, but he never found anything. We know, but hasn't been provided in court, that she later have been diagnosed with cancer. But again, we only go by what's in this trial, and no one have put in that she has been later confirmed to have cancer. So she comes off shady again because her own doctor said, yeah, I know we were kind of looking at going to the Mayo Clinic or wherever they were going, Duke, I think it was maybe. The only thing was she was an emergency contact for the neighbor's kid who had the diabetes, so there could be a reason she had the insulin in the house, but I didn't really feel that came across. Like the guy, okay witness, didn't have much. The last witness, though, Dr. Priya Banji, what an expert witness. I really, really like witnesses like her. She was to the point, she was personable, she was funny, she was honest. Well, at least she came off honest. If she didn't have the answers, she said, I don't know, I can't tell, it's not my expertise. She testified that when she looked at the reports, he had an enlarged heart. So along with if he had some benzodiazepine, that could have contributed to his death. She was honest, said, I don't know. She's a forensic pathologist as well. And the best their experts got at is it was too murky to find out how he died. I wish they had spent as much time with the last witness as they wasted on the first one, because when defense came at her, the first thing he did was a big mistake. Oh, sorry, state, because she had a gap in her CV, and he tried to find out if maybe she was, I don't know, tried to imply that she couldn't hack it or something. And he asked, well, why did you leave in 2001? And she just looked up and said, do you want me to get into that? Why? And my mom had a massive stroke, so I was at home taking care of her. Boom. Way to put a human face on an expert witness that you want to beat down. I really think that if something was really good for the defense yesterday, it was that she was so likable, and that the state put her even more likable because he asked those personal questions. Natalie was rumored, apparently had said she was going to testify, chose not to do it. Today, we will have a hearing from 9 to 10. I'm not going to cover that because it's just going to be jury instructions. It's going to be boring. We're going to start around 10, go straight into the rebuttal. Roughly 45 minutes is what the state thinks. Defense probably won't put on a rebuttal. So closing arguments. So 10, 11. Closing arguments should probably be done today. And at this time, I would put her at, again, it didn't sway me much, 85 to 90% chance of her being found guilty, but that's for the jury to find out. What do I know? I just hope you're going to join me when we're going to watch it today, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Natalie Cochran, Day 8, rebuttal and closing arguments. Hope to see you.